Alhaji Mohammed Imoro, a landlord, which in fact I've heard there's going to be an initiative, which I think in fact it will do a great help and favor to all the landlord and the tenants, because this initiative, looking at it, is going to be a great help, because some of us are lacking some education about the tenancy agreement. So with this initiative, it's going to help us a lot. So in fact, I appreciate it, and in fact, I support that initiative. In fact, I hope, in fact, it will come to being, so that we will all understand, so that there will be coexistence and peaceful, both the tenants and the landlord.
Medin Yabukar Amadou, but I have some of Konya. I'm a veteran margin. I found a fear of home, and you attend on. And this is for undertaking. You say, Boy, now, if you run them, and woman or higher than. If I ban per se, or maybe in a can who boom. They at your horsey, near Tina, our assumed dream. A bob Gana my hina, Gana my Masom G. Yantis of Mamma Bruma, a question, Gana some view, but that's some junior cost for Etnasi, Afibo.
A friend, Alhaji Malik, it's how you do. I say, dear, Moshisha Mayano, I had the papa bait my boy. It's how you do me, house number D20 Western Crew. A baby who said, yeah, rent control for I pay the if you will be unfunny when she never boy. Me Martin and me Ankasama baby busa, and a mehu, and I made him why she went to Mesre. If you will be a who says, I dear, no bit my boy. Now, ma a BBI one toy. And that's
Imam Alhaji Muhammad Amin Abdurrahman, Chairman of Council of Imams and Ulama. I'm the Mishima Yeshimi, Yaniyam Pimfa for Regional Imam of Office, maybe share rent control fee. Yabishima problems are all you face or yan renting between the tenants, no landlords and ono solution behind so you suggest ono some ye working the Ghana loss wa ma ya chase the loss or cover in renting of rooms and on the account name loss no still or cho book na so onye think I best then ka yewo mbodin na dam loss no ya mo ajuma na kon so Obama yetum yama ya enforce law no only day be commissioner for renter obobwa nti ebesre de obi biara wotum a obotum wa abom yenye dem commissioner no onfa no bombra na yentum yenye dem commissioner because commissioner so ba ono ene adwuma nti bibiara obaya aboma adwuma bibia akodo tot no obobwa na bibia akodo nti no kura yebesre na mum so demosa say you rent room biala agreement no one modern wa sign agreement them of offer or tenant no ni landlord wo sign bibia no na bibia akodo ama Ghana wetumpon ye pede yenya yetumpon enuanuma wo tutu akwan onam dama hochiri ni na abraze ntino muso margin kakra ye won yakopon oboy.
We're from Imam Yusuf Ahmed Kada. I'm in the PR or Council of Imams and Ulama. Na yede yakupon aside imianimi wa ba won yene nkomo ofan yangana edan ho asam between tenant na landlord na oyonkoma anu ye de papa nti ye besre the ma junior enuanu modabe yemboa na mbra no ye djuma o sende sembra no oye djuma tenant benya hoto landlord benya hoto o ma no botumpun with that no obotum generate more revenue a obotum aboa affordable houses obotum we simpia eja wona want to incident won ho da no obotum we nya den warrant na mom so dem brain won na ibiale ya so opeda mi ti da omboa nti da mubute ya enuanu rent control for this one emi yes na mpeyufo obotum aboa ofi aban ne nchen mpeyufo biala titiru ye benya commissioner so when you commissioner an obama eduma no wotum we di mu papa o send we nya bia obakire eduma no mosum oboko obenya aban ne support nti yes na ye mbombo na won bo na rent control bra no onye eduma o send we tu etiramba se bibia kombrada tenant ni asamka landlord ni asamka nwe na no wona adwen obeko benkurum asomdwe na hoto no mpuntu obabaga na mani nti esaka kai de sawani yakopon ombo he yeda se inshallah
wa from Alhaji Usman Dogoni PRO office of the Western Regional Chief Imam kakra yepede yede so kasa ane komoja yedin wo hande anepe ane wiabe de ye wo bi so awai wo ho agent ebi nso yebetu akada middleman onwo wo do ne wodua ansana ebi a ohwe den na wenya ana yepede nche as rent control mo bomozin na the maazin ya wa abolish if system mu so obiala opedo on rent de ne biala oboko direct to the landlord or the landlady na wa kaje ne den na ansana wa rent control na mbra owo hu biara wotum na wahwe na wezi ma bibiala aya asundinti doliti na ehia ne pede de the middleman and agent woman won bomazin na yang abolish eyina mekay wiam pede me da asam ko sumudi twum. In fact Ghana we don't want to pay taxes in Ghana. You so tax ya but even there them laws ya wa be yala. In fact landlord and then landladies be them obe try there wo be me the law on kay ejuma couple they don't want to pay tax on their burdens and then one day now we see no nti the only thing am pede there yam bom modern yam hu there on yel offend then how do you call it taxes are ban all if you want change or the demon burn or baba rather or peda on my ekuriye na asumdwe oba between the landlord or the landlady and the tenant. It's not about taxes. Into momo bia on yana adwen there aban peda oje taxes if you want na waste no into na onom de ma aban opeda oye de mehwe. Lastly mpede ebiom muwun there into obeya mama into after paying the advance no into yen say rent monthly thereby eco French countries are weighing why they say year rent monthly because 2-3 years now watching oil zim or the ma Ghanaians binum into every month be an tenant we turn rent every month be an we turn rent we feel the man chobaya ajobro or zaman or Ghana but when I see the break
and I pay yeshedi wo ha from the office of the regional chief imam being the secretary of the office of the chief imam and deputy regional chief imam or other colleagues of office of the regional chief imam yeshedi a council of imams and naibs or the Takrady district near the Meshe any pay wo fi rent control over then some now wa bobo bodo wa ha because nemu bebre yinda da ofan rent is owo ho ba yemu bebre another nyina ho ina makada nyemen bi ho asese wa bobodo a atudo de sabi nware no ya ba na wo hwe ma asumdi oba oye ifewura nom no yin sabi nwana wa ha de no woninti se na ehwe nhihye ni nyinara ampa yimpa ho a obesidan yimpa baba abachi nto toro bi so baba abachi de ma oda no so ye bibi na nhihye na wo ho ana mo hunda onya da ota odzimuninti oma asumdwe no yin oye asechina pa obi ahwehwe no sanka nti me yɛhwɛ kwan na kasa biara a wɔyɛ na aka biara yɛhwɛ kwan na yɛso yɛte akyi da ɔda aban ɔyɛ homboa ma ɔhwɛ masomdie ɔba beebiara yɛ mu biara ɔwɔ biara nti kasa na wɔda aban beebiara wɔde kasa no bɔto na obiara kasa no bɔto no ehu na obɛyie de sɛ nyimpa sɛ wɔ hɔ na sɛ wɔ asomdie na wɔ biribiara nti wɔnhwɛ na wɔmboa ma dodo biara ɔda wɔhwɛ ma de me adwuma ɔte de me ɔkɔ do ɔyɛ mfaso ɔde me beebiara yɛ mu biara wɔ biara sɛ beebiara wɔn yɛ tumi ayɛ mu a ade no wɔayɛ asomdie nti kakra mo hu dɛ me kento wɔn tan wɔn akyi ma de me adwuma ɔte de me wɔndi ma ɔnyɛ asomdie me a ɔbɔboa ɔtɔfo ma Alhaji Idris Zakaria Secretary Office of the Western Regional Chief Imam
ala wa barakatuh odi kan ibada Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala se inda so ababa ya juma oye eda kase de maye hina adia a hawo hen a igudu a yetu ho anamon aye hen mantem hawa owo hen mantem oye kusimtim zongo ankasa motin da da America krebi yade oye letters yade chima oye most various most owo kusimtim zongo hadu na odi kan oye abrabona aye sisters bi a wo kosumtum hard mala ana wo gana hade yala ebirim susu ofiri miamia wide wa baka wo ho a wide wodi dame edumadi no oye ade bi a sabe odi kan o hawo hen at the same time susu no ye religion no enhyedan enfodo nti yesre obi bia a wo zogo hanam yetum ekona ebefode yebetum ya hwe na dame hawa a owo dame mentim a ye another oye zongo no obetum wa da wakọ ye amehena another yebetum ya da yetu ase kwata sabe ame nkotimi ntum ye da me ye minim de awsoso wankoti so entum ye da enye na mmom se ye hina ye de hena adwini edupo kra me fi do betum wa da wa bo hen sise na wo ho no ebia na hawo binti na wo ye da ma do se eba hemfo wo ho hene assembly members won chen another imams ye chen a edu wo hawo de brehe na yebetum ayeda ya hwe ko ne betum afọ de be de ye baboa na mmom se ekade bo ele small ho onna ma hawo binti ne se be tọrọ wo ho de a ono de obeye ahaw ama amna wo hina because yen ye ahwehan ento ho ma yede en ye de ma do ye besre aban oye the appointment of rent commissioners ubehwe na wa ma oye mra no wotum wa yede wa ye dwuma so wotum wo hye oye office no mu kana na ebia won so wotum wa de wanya honden na wotum wa yede oda ye nzema oda yede oda bohen miss mobaya de me hina no wotum wa yede wa bohen
Educating public on the Rent Act no meaning say nioma ese fata say landlords tenants omoye ye ejuma etosu mienu e wosa ye ne say e wosa ye settle conflict say landlord and tenant amunti omo ho ase a e wosa ye na ambeba ya ho na ya church omo de me bocho mitwi ni nyanti ya omo fanche me na ya church omo de e wosa omoye na ye last function e wosa ye ne say I was saying making sure say Rent Act no aye ejuma nti they say Rent Control Department Act aye di ejuma no aye Rent Act 1963 Act 220 and no na currently ye di ejuma emom ye was some rent bill 2023 sorry and no ye nyam pass ye execute to review current act aye di ejuma but as of now no ye pass ye the same Rent Act 1963 na ye di ejuma nti dey say we fira na say usi wo dan a na oye wadwen say e rent na odebema the very first thing I was say we as a fira and say I was say oba rent control office oba register as a fira oba register that gives the rent control the opportunity to keep records of vacant premises. Share section 5 of the Rent Act now. I say rent officer, I was say you keep vacant register of vacant premises. Meaning say rent control office, you keep access or records of vacant premises now. The issues of agents, ACC, tenants, and so now ambenya dino na esubecha because rent office keep vacant premises now. Say obi here dan they here ne say obeba rent control office o here dan wo ha o here dan of this nature now rent office because they keep
stock of those premises no easily you betimi amasa information no and nothing here say fear say usi wodan a was say over register now having registered no the next thing is say I was a rent control office you call inspecting property no they making sure say rules bylaws are honorable I must share assemblies every assemblies or bylaws regarding facilities I was say a fee rent office be making sure say facilities no I was a fee na fair no or person or dema rent jama washroom or light or other certain basic amenities in here send nipa betina ho so that that facility can be declared habitable inti na here say fair was some register afi say ye fasa ekwanye ni na so a the next thing is say you would die fair but emrema ho kwan say won ko a wo be determine ahia wo be charge for that facility no into wo be ye bibia wo be apply for assessment meaning say wo be car chair rent office price a wo person wo this property no wo dey rent office be ba ho abe taking measurement I consider other factors mutuality ni o no not together with the landlord you determine and here as a property no I was say ya deje having done that no rent control office be more certificate of assessed rent meaning say obi ba tenant bi ba na woman rate na on tiasia we betime use that document no dey share no say your facility has been assessed and it has been that price has been approved you faster process no we are afi ya wodan ebia wodan no ya can say o expect say tenants no ebia a gated house let's use that a gated house and I will feel no about 10 o'clock o be pese o be lock main gate no you feel but sa in shishaye no I was a tenant no oye aware and sa na wagye sika say ochina assembly bar tenant no oya aware pan say sa fie no about 10 na ye betum enu nti na ye free bibi tenancy agreement fair no in shishaye wo pese o ma a govern on the tenant no obeba rent office the reason obeba rent office ni say emra no ye na ye kra emra no it be make sure say agreements are about what tenancy agreement no and laws ni na aligning it is ofie no o person lock gate 10 na ya be ma about tenancy agreement no e bia ofie no o engage ebi mo be pra ho a uti omoka at the end of every month I be expect say tenant no was say no so otua bibi I was say about agreement no it is a board draft tenancy agreement na you be making sure say loss no so aye ejuma sisi agana ya wono emra ne say fear nje more than 6 months rent advance and nothing I encourage say landlords no mo beba na ya boa a draft agreement no to reflect the positions of the law say as a mo sign agreement ni we are ansa na tenant ne beba no de sa nhihye ni na abema no na wakenkan so why you ready say obedi ni na so a afi one no be exchange na wetua na mo sign agreement na mean say sa agreement no are binding by law because the tenant is well aware say safie no about 10 na you betu gate no safie no yetua 20 cedis every month towards keeping the premises it is a mo sign agreement ni we are sorry I was a copy back to rent control office back to the rent of control office because assembly after one engage here rent control na be share aka asem no by law until you keep copy wa rent officer na eventually rent control be issue their friend rent card no yeah acknowledgement of a particular tenancy that's the complete meaning process no are complete it is only tenant no more engage we offer process we ni name now your record wa rent control office now about 11 o'clock now o tenant be fie now what to main gate ma sa tenant no kra on ti mean be kasa because or ya aware say safie no o ka kire no right from inception say about 10 na o be lock main gate no say month so na tenant 20 and 20 cedis na utimi o wo ho kwan say o be institute legal action na rent control ya intervening make sure say tenant no wetia because aban so ya aware say only tenant no what can see say every month you betua 20 cedis. To say a problem say also now regarding tenancy no, it is because most of the tenancy agreement no are informal. Ya de anoka saya na ya de kan. Iti ebanesa the state cra enye aware say only o tenant cra ma engage. Most of the tenancy agreement and most of the landlord tenant relationship secondary takrade hani na unlawful. Unlawful in the sense say aban rent control na representing no onye aware of any such agreement. Until they see say problems need there because of all these problems need aban government only data about informing policy decisions say FIRA na undertaking your duties here aban benya because at the end of the day so be here dan a rent office na obeba it is a mobile rent office na mu here dan na mu nye bia yenim say nkofo here single room apartment pa enye available. We can advise the government in that regard so that affordable housing can be made available. That put aside the processes where your FEMA your buying properties be moswa your demand rent. But because over the years,
formalize.
Okay. Over the years, no, fa process ni name no, ama hardware. It's a shemo. Say, tenant now rented there. The very first thing I obey and say, making sure say what demanded for tenancy agreement. This affair and say, in Shishaya Bay. Now what person meneo have regarding that facility no and sana what making any form of payment we feel so now o person o de wo my rent we advise say ubeba rent control office say I be guide now what drafted tenancy agreement and create only problem in ma only o tenant no nti yadama sepa
yo Mr. Courage. But what many times
so I should excuse you.
No. We have a concern.
Okay.
Same things Mr. Courage, I'm calling the certain zone go letter be minimum 70
Sure.
There area go forward what than man. More the ashawo. On them ashawo na community. If you are no semi fina even when I'm asked one normal people now what you want. Because I shall in over 60 cedis a day. Normal person over 120 cedis a month. Inti ochede skinny plenty, if you were no aside in Papona or Dama. Inti maybe one the military and missing community office into the one there, law no. What should we do? Law no Magdamokana, demo almost come to fear. What I perform search in moral, what I was shower, another. Le landlord bit my sack will be yo one of 60 is a day of virginity into the more one our rent control officer I know I discuss them until the incident before you can watch now why going up to watch now ever address one name
okay nti our law no yawo nyome bi mu a se tenant here ansa na otimi gina so say o je wodan ansa na FIRA beka say origine dan no ye wo nyoma e wo say tenant ti say de me wo faka ye no e bia o wa be rent dan o shiwi wo fie ho it's against the laws it is an immoral act rent act no say FIRA to me too irrespective of agreement only na have it. But the reason many abotra me take it as true ni na ne say most of the tenancy agreements are around no unlawful. A buyer is not aware of such engagement. So obi aye be ope, FIRA aye be ope, agent here be ope, tenant here be ope. But obi too efifie without any justifiable reason and nothing a rent control office wo ho no bra office be complain say o be complain na investigate who say onye boni bia ana ekwan ya wo say fear afaso ansa ojidan no wan faso na or harassing wa you be intervene and make sure say o bet na fio and I say wo share your act no I think I say we dey assemble before the appropriate rent control officer na say officer ne ka asem ni wie within the next 2 years no fear no only kwan kra say obeka say fifio. I don't know if it answers your question to a large extent but it is of course Ghana the laws of the country front against prostitution. It is an illegal venture. It is nipa say ejuma we na nipa ne ye forgive me oye ashawo na utu unia e de dan na ma ashawo. It is against the laws. It is of course not right. It is not right. Most of the problems that arise out of tenancy, landlord and a tenant, it's because it has bypassed the oversight of the law, which is represented by rent control office. Most of agreement, most landlord and tenant in Shishaya, Takrade, Bebrena, Aban is not aware of it. Itina encourages us, oh, they would die in my rent cry. You need to register yourself. You need to register yourself. You need to register yourself so that the state will guide you to draft agreement. Say you now abide by that rule. Issues to say the OBJ O2 OB at the dynama ashawono. It wouldn't even happen in the first place. Aban is aware of your engagement. But the reason Nyoma called the way economy say most of the tenants informal, unlawful. Inti fear to me sorry say or Jenny because in the first place fear and tenant no more engagement no. The law is not aware of it. The law with regards to rental no rent control office now share laws ne so inti na encourage say landlords no more register so that the state will be aware of your engagement.
Ojo, one question for the
This is a meeting today or what?
Zongo focus another community na kasano. Asha we mo na we ya no. Onye mrama usasumna la. Nne dresses bia okodo a. Onye normal. Sisa we pere we take action of those people. Sisa no ye pere bi so there. Sisa ya kese ye pe ye look at action you took of no fuo. Another they dey say the one no one get so am laws are able to relate to the monk of one because you tell na wo sisa no. Awon no na odi dan no da madam of no. Awa mo come go so for dan na fa mo na won tu won tire fi ono wan ye the made ban no. This is a very young if you want to take attack against a favor of now you take attack against a show no.
I think say it will be appropriate say a sign petition. The Islamic community will come back, will bring you, will draft a petition. So that we send it to the regional coordinating council and we make sure the rent control office also appends to the petition so that we follow up for you and make sure that sanity is brought in the sector. Because the issues of the several challenges in Ghana, issues of galamsey. In fact, I was watching a video mamia or autumn fish. Or the fish and your red fish, or they share me who say chemicals, or they share chemicals or EPA, not than a red fish. All these things are happening because the rental housing sector is having challenges. When I say everywhere I stand, I would make this emphatic statement. The Rent Control Department, Rent Act now, Emma Rent Control existing no. Rent Act no section 2 say, I was say, a buying one who can say, or the act makes provision for the appointment of a rent commissioner. Rent commissioner no was making sure say Rent Act no aye juma, but Rent Act no it has been for over 60 years now, 6 decades. But yenya commissioner da. It is a Rent Act no they are also making sure say ye juma no fiti da act ne ba ye nya bi da no. How can we make how can the department work? So everywhere we get the opportunity to come, we make it loud so that the Islamic authorities would also add their voice to this to make sure that we are able to carry out our functions. Because say Osha Braboma needs no your basic needs. So one satisfied basic needs of clothing, shelter, and a food. You can't satisfy, or you won't even think about the needs of love. You won't think about the needs of community. Say a come dinipa galam say onim say enya adepa but obeye because a come dino onya baby a obeda. A come de market woman oton fish a yenton the fish or the beshe colored substance mu aton fish no because I was so nya sika betua ne rent. I was so nya sika de maneba. So these are what we are calling for. So the Islamic authorities, we plead with you to add your voice to the call of the need for a rent commissioner so that the department can be able to carry out its mandate effectively and make sure that affordable housing, in fact, say in Kofo here dying, there were housing deficit for Ghana. Say ya depa, say Kofo here dying, you see diamond mona munsheme because people are ready for the accommodation. So what is the problem? Me, I consider it an opportunity. In fact, before I came into this auditorium, my friend National Home Ownership Fund, amuye fund amusi affordable housing to complement affordable housing. Me bisa a dino 2-bedroom boy. Amusi 660,000 Ghana cedis. Me pacha yemumu ahina ya we can afford that building. How affordable is that building? We are encouraging, say the authorities add their voices to our mandate. Because yetimi register landlords, yetimi register tenants, assembly stores, STMA apartments, renting, which is less than 50 cedis. No, it will go to directly to people who need it. Because I was keeping data of landlords and tenants. It is a assembly store, say STMA state housing company property. Sisia middle person be ontimi womb. It say oye fira, which a buyer is also a landlord at a point, or rentier, or the Bema tenant straight, I just have 50 no, or being beshe middle, and to 50, abra on to not dino, na uncle renters are dino more than 50, a bit more renting 1,000, 1,005, you kuya home, and that is what is creating problems and challenges such as the films is here now, because people are desperate. People, their housing is not meeting the needs. The demands of housing are better more than the supply. So we have to be able to fill the gap. Landlords have to register. We need to have accurate data and know the needs of the people so that government can intervene. Madam Ase.
By 5 minutes or if you want to ask me, because this is a meeting. There was question into also very high. No, I like the first say maybe some question now. You into we are now. It's the part
I'm the oil boss. Answer now. Honorable care. Nam answer on my answer number. Now, man, some more question. I'm very busy. Oil boss or dinner. Only about them renting. And now these days renting. Yeah, yes, you charge the American. Nti dam inshana ya hye ho charge no as a rent control abadu where from na wona eduma no mehu eduma no tedan o ma sanya ya mbo ho awon woto anomamba houses wo bebisa wona wo edan no how do you pay your rent, how do you ama nyama bia soft ama oye tenant a ye rent edan no ma no esi wo ha oye maybe the honorable Ashaw for no Kawana some in fact, or the honor if you are 10 years better your ball. Or be said there, Madam will be said, or be said there, oh yeah, the moon one hour what if you were from what one. Now, if you were from now, one be deal another, one a shaw no would be deal. Answer number. Now, also, my better make up found there. Sisiano. Say one sort of why you be there, Yamilukani, yen kan da one nya ka say you take law to our own hand no kora some why
Yo, medase. O first question regarding the fact that Fira Bimo the show Monsana amo charge rent no. And no na Michelle Seka say most of the tenancies are secondary takra they have no unlawful. Landlords no amo register here. Tenants now are engaged, the state is not aware of the engagement in the first place. People say, tenants no some rentier insist on the tenancy agreement, insist on it, say Fira no be register now agreement no the state which is rent control is aware of it, it will bear our stamp. Insist on the tenancy agreement and solve problems of rent charges no because to say them rent assessment I was say rent control any Fira nona amu decide after that premises has been inspected. I think your second question my main third question no regarding Ashawa Sem no one say rent control office our mandate is well within landlords and tenants. Inti Ashawo no vice, social vice. So what we can do is that there are authorities in this land, and the highest of it is the regional coordinating council. Inti na make us say I would make sure I get a petition, which will be signed by the Islamic community, the assembly as well, and then we will send it to the RCC for them to intervene because it's a social problem. It's like Okano say abaya nyahu bibia, you take the law into your hands, and the RCC is there to make sure that there is law and order in the whole of Western region. In fact, say abano kwesimintima eshe ekma say your honorable nana oneye wono. So they are supposed to make sure that the laws work, and say you too ashawo for you too natives would have to establish certain things and make sure that the law, the state intervenes. But to me, unless we get that petition from the leadership, which is an official document which we can work on. I don't know if you are satisfied. You are not satisfied. After proposal, I call regional coordinating council. Proposal yes, seeking to reform rental landscape or the whole of the Western region. And about say, you've been making sure say there is mandatory landlord registration. Say we can monitor some of these things and make sure the law works. It is part of the reform initiatives we have taken. The second one is we making sure say agents no cry are more acting as between us no. Your license or more say I'm betting ya mo ejuma was am those agency fees and a percentages are mo no. Aso betwa nti honorable assemblyman or petition no regional minister of all MMDAs. The chief executives no ya present ya mamo nti asie kasa sisia no ya chair honorable Majid now ma fair to facilitate community engagement so that guidelines are given to landlords for them to register. So rent control we are truly working and we are relying on the authoritative hierarchies in the region to carry out our mandate.
No,
rent control was in the question there. The tenancy argument. More than with the baby. You go one side. But this over there, she's a this over there. We side our tenancy argument.
Yeah, Casa Siciano. The regional rent control office, they are drafting a standard tenancy agreement and making sure say 6 months advance no any other laws, basic laws being but rent control office and quiet mean kase obeying you see this particular tenancy agreement. Nti na ya trocrat call assemblies ni say amu facilitating community engagement no. Part of it ni say you represented that tenancy agreement no. Ama landlords and a tenant na ya seek amu input so that we can talk about a standard tenancy agreement in the region. So it very much depends on the fastness of the assemblies to make sure we have that community engagement.
Yo, Imam say, ye chief Zango. Ago pata o ma na papa na otina won, ohin na otina won. O si masalachi ko so won, abaye no hanti, ye hyehyeta na ba masalachi wo so no problem. Yo, ye be gina chief Zango. Na ye imam, mara amini. Wana ne, na Zango youth for development. Ye be gina wana ne mara Mohammed, we ya butara me. Na ya de wana asi. Na asem wa aka wa to ina so. There or there was signed petition. It's yet back. Maybe you will be signed there. Maybe you will be exactly. The petition, but there, certain signed a petition. Yes, I mean, inside. Madam, signing in there. Your madam will it's a petition, no. Yet, Baba, it's a major ornament donors. Then there was say one to have educated on the Rent Act. No way and the money I did you. Now, Yama, I shall vote more for Muslim community. Instead, on us, it's happy. Certainly, the baby commoner, the Abahana petition. There, that they make sure they will be a major concern of community. Saying to one man, I don't be a poor and see psychology that's the regional rent control for the owners. God bless you.
Thank you.